Shayan. Nice to meet you. Nuruz Piruz, as we say in Iran. Happy New Year. Yesterday was our New Year, and so of course, we have some greetings to do first. My name is Luna, and I'm one of the organizers of the Azadi Metal Festival in Germany. And I have the honor to talk to Shayan of the band TRIVAX today, who will be headlining our festival on the 13th of April 2024. And I'm excited as I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it, but I'm excited as fuck. So thank you for having us and having time to answer some questions.
It's absolutely my pleasure. First of all, the honor is ours. Thank you for kindly inviting Trivex to perform at your festival. And also, yeah, what better reason to do it than the reasons that we are doing it for? And of course, Noruz Piruz to yourself and to everyone watching. Yeah, excited to see what we're going to talk about.
Yes, so since we do not have so much time, I would start right away with a couple of questions so that you will have enough time to answer them and answer them as much as you want. We will take the time we need. I think it is very important to hear to what you have to say to understand how metal and Iran and charity is combined together, how they're linked together, and what's important about it. So, first of all, we're talking about you, we're talking about metal, we're talking about a metal festival. So, what got you into metal?
Great question. I mean, I was around 13 years old in Tehran. And up until that point, I was always somehow drawn to the more kind of alternative things, I guess, especially in comparison to the culture that you find in Tehran, where even with the pop culture, everything is just so ridiculously watered down. I always kind of wanted to rebel against that. Even with if I heard songs on PMC, that's Persian music channel for anyone who doesn't know, like it just made me want to vomit. And so for me, it was just a case of I always wanted to kind of rebel against that, and on top of it, of course, there's the societal and religious um, sort of aspects of our world over there, which which are so overpowering in a sense. So for me, and just my own personality since childhood, and if you put everything together, when I discovered metal, it was like the perfect thing, and it happened when I was 13 years old, and we of course have satellite TV there, because we're trying to access channels that aren't available by the government's own media, and which is again illegal to do, but it's one of them things that everyone does it anyway. And yeah, I had a music video come up on the TV by Metallica, and the volume was actually off, but something happened, I feel, when I saw James Hetfield, and I was like, oh wow, this is different. And I immediately made note of the name of the band, and then I ended up buying a bootleg CD of theirs from a CD shop down in Postaron, for anyone who might know where that is. And yeah, and then I ended up just becoming absolutely obsessed with this genre of music. It's kind of one of them things. It fit my personality like a glove, really. There wasn't anything else that did that at that time. So yeah, that's how I got into it, and then I just followed down the rabbit hole of extreme metal and ended up where I am now, I guess.
Nice. So, you just mentioned that you had to get a bootleg CD to access metal music. So, music has been a form of resistance in Iran ever since, actually. Did that influence your decision to start a metal band?
Yeah, I think it was kind of a natural inclination that I always already wanted to become a musician even before I discovered metal. What I knew at that time was that I actually wanted to become a DJ, because that was, if you think, around early 2000s, that's the kind of music that was very popular, and that's what I was exposed to. And for some reason, I always thought that I was gonna one day move to England of all places, which I actually ended up doing, to either become a pro wrestler or become a DJ. That was my dream as an 8, 9 year old, So I think I've always been very kind of goal oriented in that sense, in that I always kind of knew what I wanted to do in life. And when I discovered metal, it was kind of like, oh, so that's what I'm gonna do then. That's the kind of the perfect match of all that stuff that I kind of wanted to have before. Because it is very physical being on stage as well, even with the pro wrestling interest that I had as a child, basically. But I think that it wasn't even something that I thought about. It wasn't like I had to sit down and make a decision. To me, very immediately, I knew that as soon as I discovered that style of music, that I wanted to play it. I didn't discover it just because of I wanted to listen to it, but I knew I wanted to become that. I wanted to get closer to whatever it was that was at the core of this very fascinating subculture and way of life, really. So yeah, I didn't have to think too hard. I just started writing music pretty much within the first 2, 3 months of even starting to play guitar. I've still got all of those like old demos, that I recorded in my room in a small with a small amplifier and everything. Which of course I haven't released yet, but who knows? One day I might put them out. But for those interested who really like to dig into the background of Trivax, but yeah, I was just completely blown away. And I was like, what better thing than to want to start things on my own? Now, of course, at the time when I started, I didn't know any other musicians. So I basically just started on my own solo. And then I met a good friend of mine from a band called, well, he hadn't formed that project yet, but he later formed a band called Lavison Jangel, who have the T-shirt that I have behind me here. Everyone thinks that's Trivex. It's actually Lavison Jangel. Very, he's a very good artist as well, and a very close friend of mine for years now. And him and I, we kind of decided, okay, like he was the first other person I met who was into this culture. So I said, all right, let's make this a band, and I convinced him to learn how to play drums. He wasn't even a musician at that point. He didn't. His parents complained at him, so he couldn't learn drums. So he ended up picking up the bass, and he actually later ended up playing bass in some relatively well-known Iranian thrash bands, by the standards of like the Iranian metal scene and whatnot. And yeah, that was kind of like the I mean, there's a lot of details to unpack, but if you're wanting the nitty and gritty of how Trivex actually started, those were kind of like the very early steps going back to 2009. Spring of 2009 is when it kind of became an entity outside of just me playing on my own.
Okay, just a quick question. You said that you like wrestling. So, who was your favorite wrestler back then? Asking
Hmm.
for a friend.
I was so when I first discovered it, I was a big fan of Eddie Guerrero, of course, rest in peace. Everyone knows him. And then Kane was really big for me because I was like, oh wow, this is weird. I think even when I was like very, very young, it was just something that I had an attraction to the darker side of things that was just not fucking normal, and he kind of embodied that. It was like this random because the time I got into it is when he still had the full suit, and then the flames, and the mask and everything, so I really, really vibed with that as an 8-year-old. And then of course Stone Cold Steve Austin was kind of like, this might be funny or interesting for people to know, is when I was maybe I think about 12 years old. We used to have our own little shop in school, and I used to go and buy Delster from there, which is basically like non-alcoholic beer, because of course you can't drink in Iran. Um, and I used to buy cans, I used to smash them together and drink it like Stone Cold Steve Austin, so that's kind of what I was like as a teenager. So I guess maybe you can see why metal ended up kind of fitting my life so well later on. But yeah, that's wrestling was cool, that's kind of one of my earliest introductions to metal as well, with like Limp Bizkit and some of those kind of artists. So yeah, pretty cool stuff.
It's funny. I just had to ask because a lot of people are so surprised that people who grew up inside of Iran or are actually just still living there know metal and wrestling and other pop culture, which is popular here. They're always, how
Mm,
do you know that? And I say, yeah, we are more similar than you think. We're more similar than you know. We have our own ways to get there. And I think just to emphasize this, the similarities we have, despite all odds, is important to mention
mhm.
sometimes, at least,
I
just to
think,
make.
yeah, I would say culturally speaking, Iran is one of the most westernized countries in the world. It's just that we live under very contradictory and conflicting rules and laws that are put in place by the governing powers. Otherwise, even 20 years ago, Iranians were the first to know about the newest fashion trends in Paris and getting on board with it. Whether it's with films, whether it's with music, they're the first to know and follow. So we're a very westernized country, for better or worse. You can debate about that, but um, yeah, that's one of them things. Yeah, I think it does take people by surprise. Because there's no other nation, there's no other breed of people like Iranians on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. We're very unusual in many ways, and we have a lot of history behind us too. So yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah, well, as someone who studied archaeology and with a major in Iranian archaeology, yeah, I have to agree. We are
Hmm.
definitely very special with a long history. All right,
Absolutely.
but let's get back to metal because we have the clock ticking. So, and we want to talk a little bit more about metal. What is metal to you now after all these years?
It's a way of empowerment. And to me, it's just like an extension of my person, if you will. To me, there's something very cathartic about being in the midst of the loud chaos of it all and the fire that burns within this music and just really feeling the real sheer force of it, and yeah, I can't imagine what life would be like without it. Of course, I've matured a lot over the years and I'm very open to other cultures, but I will always come back to the just the sheer force of metal. And to me, ultimately, it's the voice of rebellion that makes it what it is. It's the fact that especially for me, as someone who as a teenager was actually a practicing Muslim, the empowerment and the independence and the freedom that I found in metal was something I never found in that religion. So yeah, that's one of them things. It's not to say I'm not a spiritual person. I'm very spiritual and I have beliefs that don't align with your day-to-day atheist, but at the same time, that actually still again aligns with metal for me because there is some kind of a metaphysical force that makes it what it is, that makes the hair stand on your neck, and it's just sheer power when it's done right.
That's true. And I mean, there's a phrase saying metal is my religion, so it does have a base.
Hmm. Sure, yeah, yeah. It definitely there's definitely something to that for sure.
Thank you. All right. So, how do you perceive music in Iran and especially metal?
How do I perceive music in Iran? Do you mean the contemporary music scene there?
Yes.
Hmm. Um, there's not a lot going on that I'm heavily involved with at the moment because Iranian bands aren't really in a position to, um, they're not in a position like we are with Trivax, for example, where they can just go and play shows abroad and do tours and things like that. They can't really do that. And I think that that's, playing shows and traveling around the world is one of the best ways to really hone your craft as a band and to really get better, when you're forced to go under that kind of pressure, but also to really to see some kind of a result as to what your music can give back to you. And I gotta say that one thing that always kind of bothered me is that in Iran there's so much oppression, yet I don't feel like the bands are angry enough. I always think you're living in these horrible fucking conditions, societally speaking. I mean, the time when I grew up, the country was much better financially, so the dilemma was mostly cultural. But now people can barely put food on the table, and this is on top of the cultural issues there. And I just think that shouldn't you be a little bit more pissed off? Shouldn't you be playing music that's a little bit more unhinged, So I guess maybe the metal elitist in me as well just expects a little more. That's why I appreciate bands like Lavison Jangal, and what I won't say his name, but what he's doing over there. That's genuinely fucking radical music. That's what I want to hear. I want to see people get radical and extreme with this art form from Iran. And yeah, there are of course many bands and friends who I know who are doing that, but I always feel like they're a bit afraid, which I understand, but it's an unfortunate thing because then you realize that, oh, whatever this regime is doing is actually working on these people, and I wish I could just go wake them up, But of course, I'm sat over here, so this is about as much as I can really do, other than just make my own music and raise our flag to the quote unquote foreign audiences as much as possible by doing what we do in Trivex.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So, if you compare your musical goals you had when you started Trivex back then to the place where you are now, what would your younger self who created Trivex back then think of your future self now?
Mm. He'd be very proud, I think. I think he would be like, "Oh wow, shit, you're doing that." Um, yeah. Yeah, I think it would be a very, very positive meeting for sure.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, yeah, because the thing is as well, I've never, so many people start this and then at some point along the way they give up. I've never given up. I've been doing this for years now, and I could have started doing something else or whatever, which would have been fine, by the way, but I just don't know how to fucking let it go. I'm a very obsessive person, and I don't get sidetracked very easily in that sense.
Mhm. But on the other side, I think it's also a very positive message for every other musician now, be it in Iran or maybe in Afghanistan or maybe wherever in the world. Just if you have a dream, there might come an option for you to actually achieve it. So no matter the odds or the obstacles, do not give up. And I think that's a very powerful message, actually. And you're a good example for that. And I think we should definitely emphasize that more because this is important for all the younger people. I mean, we need to invest in the next generation as well. And we are the
Absolutely.
role models.
100%. Very beautifully put, and thank you so much. You know, I think for us, what we do speaks for itself. But you are right in that whatever it is that you want to achieve, if you put your mind to it, you will achieve it. And of course, you're gonna face lots of different obstacles. I certainly have done. Even this is the thing as well, this is a misconception that we have over there. By over there I mean in Iran, is that, oh, as soon as you leave that country you immediately become a superstar. That's not how it works. It's been, I would say, I don't know if this may be a controversial statement for me to say, but I would go as far as saying that, safety matters aside, it's been a lot harder trying to make it as a band here than it was in Iran, because we had a lot more support when we were there to start with. But then here, being a part of the underground scene here, and people have different standards, different expectations, and Europeans, for better or worse, just don't give that much of a fuck. There's a lot less of a sense of community, which I actually think can be to their own detriment as well. Is that every man for himself kind of thing? That is something that, culturally speaking, at least when it comes to the music department, it really shows itself, because there could be so much more that we could be doing there. but we still never gave up. We never caved in. We never said, oh, let's completely change our style so it becomes appropriate, or let's do this, or let's do that. We just kept doing what we do when we did it honestly, and we did it whilst enjoying it, and we did it whilst consistently improving at what we're doing. So eventually it sort of came to something, where we're now in a position where, we kindly get asked to go to different festivals and, play and go to tours and all these things, and I'm super humbled by that. But that's not something that came easy for us either. We've really had to make personal sacrifices, financial sacrifices, relationship sacrifices, family sacrifices, all those things just to be in that position. And I wouldn't change it for a thing either, because like I said, the mission has always been the same, and if my younger self, let's say if my 14-year-old self, who's just writing his first songs saw what I was doing now, he would think, "Oh fuck yeah, I stayed on this. I didn't walk away." And I think that's something I would feel very proud about. And I would anticipate that I'll probably still be, I mean, you never know what the future holds, but I'll still probably be doing this one way or another for at least the next 10 years, if not more. But yeah, the path is very clear to me, and it's not even about the time frame. I don't want to put like an expiration date on it either, but the message is very clear, and we're kind of just getting started, really. So here we go.
Nice. Yeah, so we talked a bit now about the origins and roots of Trivax and all the struggles you faced inside of Iran and other bands are facing inside of Iran. But how does affect the effects of being a member of an Iranian metal band outside of Iran, but still playing black metal and still being openly Iranian and playing metal?
Mm.
So, did you have some kind of encounters with people who sympathize with the IRGC or who belong to them? Have you been threatened?
Yeah, yeah, we have. Yeah, and you know what? I see it as a badge of honor. I think that whenever I see that, I mean, Azrael, the obviously that video ended up getting quite a lot of traction. It got traction from there was someone he commented, I mean, they say not to read the comments, but I like doing it because it's to me it's like a social study more than anything. I don't take anything personal because I'm already proud of what we made. Um, so one comment, it was this Iranian guy. There's like three large paragraphs, and he was saying how when I listen to you guys, I feel like jinns are appearing around me and moving the furniture in my house, and you are really the devil, and this is awful music for meth heads. And I thought that was amazing, like what an amazing compliment. It was really one of my favorite compliments I've ever heard. It's like we ruined this guy's life in Iran, who stumbled across what we're doing, and yeah, it's fantastic. And to me, I'm open to that response. And the thing is, when Trivex was in Iran, we did live shows there. We played a few underground shows there. We played at Park Neovaran, totally illegal. We weren't supposed to do it, but there was about 500 people there. And we were surrounded by the police. For some reason, they left us alone because we lied to them saying that we were a part of this festival. It's a very long story, but I will tell you more about that in person later. But yeah. So we did multiple underground shows, and every single time I kept thinking I could get arrested, I could get killed, they could come and fuck us up. No problem. Let's do it anyway. So that attitude, I'm grateful for the opportunity to get forced to make radical decisions like that as a teenager, because that never changed since then. I'm still the same now. So when we are doing what we're doing, and then I have friends of mine from Norway calling me saying, Shayan, you need to be careful. You need to do this at shows. You need to do that because you could be in danger now. I'm like, good. Good. I'm glad, because fuck them. This is what we're standing for. This is what we do. And I understand that's very arrogant. Maybe it's stupid. Maybe some point in the future I'll turn around and think, oh my God, what have we done? But it doesn't matter. ultimately we stand by what we do. And if they want to send us threats, good, bring it on. I'm not afraid. I'm certainly not. And it's certainly not going to make me stop doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah, I understand that very well. So I had threats as well. I can tell you about that later on if you like, or if we
Please
have
do.
some
Yeah.
time and people are interested. I mean, I'm living in Germany and I still have threats from them. So it's interesting because it's the same to us. We're wearing as a badge of honor because we say if they threat us in Germany, it means we hit a nerve, and whatever we are doing, we're on the right path. So we just need to keep going. But I can tell you more about that later. And yeah, so let's get to Germany and metal in Germany. This is a nice bridge at the moment. So, what motivated you to attend such a small festival in Germany as the Azadi Metal Festival? And do you think such events do actually have an impact?
First and foremost, the thing that really captured my attention was the fact that you guys did that protest outside the Iranian embassy in Frankfurt. To me, that was one of the coolest honors we've received as a band. And I didn't ask you to do it. We didn't really speak or we didn't know each other at that time. You just one day out of the blue sent me that there was like seven, eight of you doing that outside there. I think that's absolutely brilliant. I love that. And I really encourage that kind of reaction to our music and to our work with TRIVAX. So first and foremost, you already had my attention by then. And then of course, the cause of this event is something that I stand by very strongly. I would even go as far as saying that generally speaking, Tribex are not that much of a political band, but when it concerns the issue of Iran, we absolutely are because that's been a common goal of ours for many years. And we've had to pay for it. So when I see stuff like that, immediately I am captured. And then when the opportunity came about, when you guys asked us to come and play, I just couldn't say no because it makes sense for us to do it. Like sometimes we do shows because we like the lineup. Sometimes we do shows because it's a place we've never been to. Sometimes we do them. There's various different reasons for Trivex to perform a concert, if you will. But when it's in a situation like this, when it's so strongly intertwined with our message, where what we stand for, but also where we come from, it's a different story. And I'm very much looking forward to not just playing there, but just being a part of such a special event in Hanau, Germany. And I commend yourself and your team for taking the time, the effort. I know how much work it takes to put together a festival, especially when it's under these kind of circumstances when you're doing so much more than just an event. So I'm looking forward to being a part of it, and I feel honored that you asked us to join you.
Thank you so much. And to be honest, back then when you were, I think if I remember correctly, you were doing a question on Instagram where to play next. And it was like, I saw the question and I was like, that's actually a very good idea. I just need to ask. I never thought you would say yes, but it was like, if I don't ask, you will never come and play at our festival. So the first step would be from our side just to ask and invite you. And when he said, yeah, sure, why not? I was like, fuck. All right, now this needs to get much more professional. Peeps, we got work
Mm.
to do.
That's
So no,
very
we're
kind of you. I'm glad that we could make it work. And
yeah.
August and sorry, April 13th, we're gonna make some history for sure.
Yes, I'm sure of it. And we are so, so happy and thankful that you give our small festival a chance to host you. So we're really excited. And
Thank you.
yes, so let's get to the next question. Actually, um, if all our efforts we put there to get some freedom into Iran, what would be the first thing you would like to do when Iran is free?
Have a kelle pache. Yeah,
That's
I
very
think
metal.
yeah, well, the most important thing for me would be to play Borja Milad with Trivex immediately. That's a show that um I think it will happen someday, one day. Who knows? But I'd like to see that happen. Yeah.
Yeah, so my big dream is actually, and no matter how many years it takes, just having the Azadi festival for 5 days, just with Persepolis in the background, and to have
Oof.
beer and water pipelines.
That sounds great. Yes, that sounds
We'll get
like
there.
yeah, there's so much to do. Yeah, I spend a lot of time thinking about this, but yeah.
I understand. It is it is a difficult topic. So, but now to the next question. We do have a couple of Iranians who are actually passively following us with our first festival and now with the next one as well. They
Hmm.
cannot follow us officially because due to security reasons, but they check our stories all the time, and sometimes they even message us and then take the message back after we read them. And
Wow.
so we do have an Iranian audience. So what would you like to tell them, the people of Iran, the ones who are watching us on our festival?
Your future is in your own hands. Stay strong and don't let anyone else dictate your fate for you. It's in your hands. You've already got it. The power is with you. Don't let anyone make you think that you don't have the power because you do. And it's just a matter of acting upon it. That's all.
Yeah. All right. And now, last question. What is your message to the international metal community?
Hmm. Suppose I could say the same, really. Yeah, just you know, Iran is coming. We have a place on the map of the world, and our flag deserves to be up there in the context of well, in the context of everything, but that includes the metal scene. Our flag deserves to be up there alongside the likes of Norway, Sweden, America, and Germany or Britain. We belong up there just as much. It's just a matter of our talents being discovered by the rest of the world. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that we stick that flag in a way to the ground that no one's ever going to be able to move it. So there we go.
Nice. Thank you so much for kindly answering all my noisy questions. And
I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for having me on, and I'm really really looking forward to April 13th. And I'm also looking forward to we're going to dedicate some time to make sure we are around to speak to those in attendance as well. So it's a special kind of event. It's not your usual one. So we're very excited, and yeah, bring on April 13th, Azadi Festival. Let's go.
oh, yes. All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.